Welcome to the East Central and South African webinar, being hosted by Crisp Excel Training and Consulting. We are corporate and individual trainers on advanced Excel, HR analytics, project management, and Office 365. Our partners in Kenya and out Kenya. Today, we are honored to have Celia Alphys, Microsoft MVP, one of the few people I know who are passionate about automation. So I'm hoping that at the end of the day, we are going to run a bit of automation, Excel reporting, training, mentoring. That's her areas of expertise. These are her social media handles. There's LinkedIn, and she has a very interesting course called Snap Reporting. So I'll send you these links and you can join. There's even a free plan, so you can join and test and see. Her YouTube channel, she hosts meetups, so there's a lot on her YouTube channels and then on Instagram. For today, we are going to learn about dynamic dependent drop-down lists. So welcome, Celia. I'll stop sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Crispo, for the invitation. Very happy to be here today and to share these tips that I have here. It's something that I've been using a lot in different projects, so I hope it can be useful for other people. Dynamic dependent drop-down lists, we will get there and see what those are. Yeah, my YouTube channel, you can see, you can take a screenshot and then maybe connect there on LinkedIn, on Instagram. There's my website, there's my blog on my website. I'll share some more connection opportunities at the end of the presentation. We just a little bit about myself for those of you who may not know me. I was in fact born in Africa, so it's very special for me to be here because I was born in Angola and I lived there until I was 3 years old. And at that time my parents returned to Portugal. They were originally from there, and that's where I grew up to 2013. I was already, at that time, I had been a mathematics teacher in high school for 20 years already, and my husband and I decided to move to a new country. So in 2013, I moved to Canada with my family, and I didn't want to start a teacher's career from scratch. So I was looking for something else, wasn't sure what. And long story short, at some point I discovered Excel and I started to learn all that I could about it. I had the opportunity to use those skills and to develop those skills while working in different jobs. And I realized there was an opportunity for Excel consulting. There was need for people with Excel skills to help companies develop their systems and automate their systems in Excel. And due to different circumstances, I ended up becoming an Excel consultant and specializing on Excel reporting, different types of automation, but a lot of, when I say reporting, these different things. So it does not mean necessarily a dashboard or something like that. It can be, for example, creating different statements for at the end of the month for payroll or about sales or something like that, and distribute those statements for the different partners, or automate operations, invoicing, things like that. So that's what I've been doing for the past 8 years or so. And then last summer, I decided to go back to a corporate job, or in fact, to go to a corporate job, which would be almost a new experience for me in Canada. I had other short experiences with full-time employment here in Canada, but Yeah, so it was difficult for a long time to convince recruiters about my skills. Anyways, that's another topic. I'm working as a business analyst, senior business analyst in a transportation company. And besides that, as Crispo already mentioned, I lead the meetup, MS Excel Toronto meetup group, that you can find on the meetup website and or on LinkedIn. You can see our publications there. We run sessions once a month. Feel free to join. They are free as well as this meetup also is free. And that's it. And I am a trainer by heart for having been a teacher for so long. About 2 years ago, I created my course, Excel Snap Reports, which means get your reports done in a finger snap, meaning you automate them and then you get your reports updated very quickly. And that uses Excel and different things in Excel. So the course is not a course about Excel, it's a course about how you can put together different things from Excel. It can be the formulas, it can be VBA, it can be the pivot tables, Power Query, how to use all these different pieces and put them together to automate the reporting procedure from data importation and then preparing and using the data and then creating the output and sending the output where it needs to be sent. So that's what I've been doing. So today we are talking about drop-down lists. I will first start about simple drop-down lists and then dependent drop-down lists. So when we have multiple drop-down lists and we want that the second drop-down shows us values, a list of values that may change depending on what we choose in the first drop-down list. I know that you already had a session about drop-down lists recently, or better said, your session was about data validation, and the drop-down lists are one aspect of data validation. So you already had the chance, those of you who participated in that session, to check on that feature, to learn about that feature. So today we will go a little bit further. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share another screen where I will have my Excel open. Okay, Teams again, here, share. And it will be this screen here. Okay, so let me just drag Teams out of there. If there's any questions, feel free to ask anytime. And Crispo, if you can monitor it's not what I want here. If you can monitor the chat for me, it would be great. Okay. I'm going to put the chat here visible as well, but I cannot really type in it. It doesn't let me. But doesn't matter as long as I see the questions. But I will have also other documents here open. I may not see them right away. So feel free to type in your questions in the chat anytime. And when Crispo feels it's a good opportunity to interrupt me, just feel free to do so. Okay, so simple drop-down lists. There's different ways you can set them up. I'm going to show you my preferred techniques to do that and explain why. I'm not going to talk about all the different possibilities, but I'll show you what I usually do to set up a drop-down list that is dynamic. Dynamic means that if my list of items grows, the drop-down automatically updates. Okay, so I have this very, very simple data here. We have different names. Note that some of them are repeated. And I want to have a drop-down list here where the name, where I can choose a name, and then we'll see the corresponding amount. Very simple task. So we can we can do this in multiple ways. Like I said, I always prefer to have a table. So not just type the names like that in a range, actually go and transform this into a table, for example, by doing insert table. And then say my table has headers, and now this is a table, which is extremely useful in Excel, because now every time you refer to the table, it does not matter if the table has 5 rows or 5,000 rows. Excel will always know that it needs to grab everything from that table or a column in a table. So that's the first thing. Use tables as much as possible, if possible, because it will make your life easier. Okay, so how can I set up a drop-down list in this blue cell here? We can go to data and then data validation. And then from here, I say I want a list. So Excel tells me, okay, where's the source for this list, the list of items? We can do this like this, just point to the table and select the items in that column. Note that for those of you who are familiar with the table cell reference, structured cell references, it does not use the name of the table here. And I'm not sure if this is too small. Let me, okay. If it is too small, I'll try to accommodate with a zoom, but it's not very practical for me. So this is how it's showing the range. It's not using cell reference structure. Okay, not good. Yeah, I'll avoid the zoom. But if you need me to zoom in, please let me know. I should have turned on my zoom it and I forgot. I can do that if needed. Okay. Okay. So if I do this data validation list and point to the, like I was doing, point to the table column and do OK. This will work. There's a couple of things here that I want to note. One is, if you notice, the drop-down list now will not show duplicates. And this is only if you are using the most recent versions of Excel, Microsoft 365. I'm not sure if 2021 would do that, probably not. Before, if we were referring to a range with duplicates, the duplicates would show here. Now, if you use Microsoft 365, it already takes care of removing the duplicates. The list does not necessarily shows in alphabetical order. It will show wherever. So, for example, if I put this Z to A, that's how it shows there. It shows in the order the items are in the source. What else I wanted to say about it? I wanted to say, okay, so what this does is, if I select a name, it looks for the name, and I have a formula here. In this case, is calculating a sum of all the amounts pertaining to that person. So, for example, if I choose Mary, since there are more than one items for Mary, it will sum up those values. The formula is not the most important thing here at the moment. We have the drop-down list. Is it dynamic? Okay, if I put Celia here, let's see, does it appear there? Yes, so now I have, it's dynamic because when I add items to my list, they automatically show in the drop-down list. However, if I do the same on a separate sheet, and this is what we will do most of the times, many times we don't want the lists on the same sheet where the user is inputting. We may need to have these lists on a separate sheet. And let's see what happens. If I come here, or let me remove these away from there. I didn't see it was in the way. If I do the same thing here, so select the cell, data validation, and then I go to list and say that my source is in this sheet here, and I select the table column, and I do OK. Does the drop down appear? Yeah, it's good. What if we put another name here? So let's say Crispo. And we add a new item. Crispo is in here. Let's see what about the second list. Crispo does not appear here. So one thing to keep in mind is if you set a data validation rule on a separate sheet where the table is, pointing to the table will not make your your drop down to be dynamic to grow with the table. That's something, I don't know why, it's just how Excel is. So how can we solve this? There's two ways. One of them is by creating a name. Let's do that. So if I go to formulas, name manager, new name, and then I say LST for list underscore names. You can give it the name you want as long as it does not have space characters. Remove these. Let's click this arrow here and let's tell Excel what my list is. My list is this table. And let's expand and OK. So I have a name that is referring to table 1 column name. That's what this means here at the bottom. The table can have another name. You can change the name, but I didn't change the name, so it's table 1 and then the column name. Okay, close. Let's see how then I can use that name in my data validation. So I can come to selecting the cell and data validation. There are shortcuts for this, but I keep forgetting about the shortcuts. So in here, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say F3 to bring the list name, the list of all the names I have. I only have this name. Select that name, click OK, and I'm saying that the data validation, the source for the data validation for my drop-down list is whatever this name LST underscore names is referring to, is the range to which this is referring to. Say OK. So now I do have Crispo there. Let's see David. If I put David here, let's see. Is David now showing there? It is. So this is one way of making your drop down, and this is still just one single drop down dynamic. The way is to create the name, the named range. One disadvantage about this, the names are sorted by the order they appear in the table, like I mentioned before. So what can we do to solve that? One thing that we can do is on a separate sheet or on the side, wherever you want. I'm going to do it in the same sheet, but it could be on a separate sheet. We can create a formula that says unique of the names. And this formula is available only in, I think, Excel 2021 and Microsoft 365. In fact, I forgot to say all the solution that I'm presenting today needs dynamic array functions to work. So you need to be on these versions to be able to use the technique that I'm going to explain today. So if I do this, I get a list of all the, why I'm not, okay, enter. Excel is not responding, so let's give it a minute. Okay, yeah, it's slow for some reason. So I get a list of all the names I have in my table without duplicates, and if I apply the sort function outside unique, I will sort them alphabetically. And many times this is what we need. So now I have all my names sorted, nicely sorted. The formula is on this cell here only. I'm going to paint it in gray. I like to mark my cells where I have my formulas in gray, just so I remember that those have formulas. These other cells are just holding results that are spilled by that dynamic array function. Okay, so now what I can do, instead of using the instead of pointing my name to this table, is to point my name to this cell and the corresponding range of values spilled out of that cell. So let's go to Formulas, Name Manager, my list names, double click in that, and let's edit this. Let's remove here. And I'm going to say this is equal to what I have in that cell. And then I add the hashtag character, the pound sign. I will zoom in just a bit, okay? And this will tell Excel, I want everything that is generated out of that cell by the formula that is in that cell. So, okay. I can do a little bit of zoom now just to show you what the formula is. So this is what I put in there, okay? So close. And now when I go back to my drop-down list here to my cell, this data validation is still referring to that same name, but now I change the name to be the result of the formula in this cell. So when I select here, now I have my list sorted alphabetically without duplicates, the way it is in here. So this is more than one way, in fact, that we talked about to set up the one unique drop-down list. I've been using the names for a long time. I like to use names in many of my projects for various reasons. They make my life easier than if I need to use them in other features in Excel. But we will see in the next example that we can set, if we use this technique here, we can use this and not need the name. Unfortunately, if we try to put the sort unique formula, inside the name manager, it will not work. If we put it in the data validation, it will not work. So for some reason, these two features are still not adapted to work with dynamic array functions, or at least these two, they will not work. Okay, so that's it for now for the first example. Let me see if I forgot something. Unique values, I talked about that. Yeah, so that's my first example. I'm going to find another file. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and Crispo will let us know. Just pulling out my second file now. You guys are too quiet. I don't like it. Because it feels like I'm talking to the wall.
I know. If you need to say something, you can tell me. I will unmute you. So
Yeah,
by default, everybody is muted. So
okay.
you can raise your hand. I'll mute you.
Yeah, or type in the chat anything, how you feel more comfortable. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I like your trick on using the named range. That's new.
Using the
named ranges. If you want to get the table from a different sheet.
Yeah. So before tables were a very common thing for me. Before I learned how to use tables, the way to make a drop down or something, a list dynamic in the sense that it would grow with me adding items to it. The way to do the way I could do that possible was using the offset function inside the named range.
Yeah.
That's how I used to do it. But if you use tables, everything becomes so much easier. No
True.
offset function needed, and but I still kept the habit of using the named range. But I would put the table reference inside the named range.
Okay.
But we can, but now with dynamic array functions, we can skip the name and do. I'll show you in just a bit.
Okay.
Okay, no questions?
No questions.
Okay, so let's move to the next step. This is the file with everything already built, and then I'll close this file and I'll start with not from scratch, but almost from scratch. So what we have here is on the left, a table with all my options, and this is crucial to have. So I want, okay, let me go back before I explain that. We need three sections. We need a list of all the options, all the combos, all the combinations we want for category and subcategory. In this case, my categories are country names and my subcategories are cities within each one, countries, sorry, within each one of those continents. In your work, maybe you have departments for category and then employees under for the subcategory, or you can have a category of products and the product names inside each category, or you can have you can have multiple things. You can have, for example, different types of materials that you use and the different categories of materials, and then subcategories would be the different part names for each type of product and or of material. I've done that for quote calculators for different companies. Anyways, so we need to have that list, and it might be very boring at the beginning having to set that up, because while here I have just 20 rows or so, it can be hundreds or thousands even of rows in a real work scenario. The second item we would have in a situation like this is the input area, where the user will select one item for the category, for example, let's say Europe, and then it shows for the second column, the subcategory will only show the items that in here belong to Europe. So it will only show these countries here. And as you see, it's how it's working. If I choose Africa, the African countries I have in here, these are the ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the 4 countries that will show in here. And the third piece that I have on the structure is this helper structure that is built here on the side. That is what the data validation will be reading from. This is fully dynamic, because if I now come here and I say, I want to add these 2 countries to the category Africa, I just need to put them in the table or type them in the table. And as you see here for Africa, on the side, those 2 names already appear. They are kind of hidden a little bit, but you see the 2 items were already added to the category Africa. And now if I come here and I choose Africa, I will have those 2 names added here as well. And they are sorted alphabetically and all that good stuff. Another thing that you may notice is that red that shows up once in a while is conditional formatting that I put in there. When I select one item, it will become red just to tell me, hey, if you selected a category, you better select a subcategory as well, or just remove the first column. In most cases, that's what we want. We may not want that. So I choose, let's say, India. And now, for some reason, I change my mind and I say, oh, no, I want Australia and Oceania. Now it becomes red because, as you know, India is not a good match, a good pair for Australia and Oceania. So it's not part of the list of items for this category. So it becomes red just to let the user know that it needs to change. They need to change this value. And if we click, we find the correct list of values and we can pick one. So I will show you how to build this. One last thing that I just want to mention is that before using this technique, I had used other techniques. The most common would be to have a separate table, separate list that would contain the lists for each category. So I would have a list for Asia, a list for Europe, a list for Africa on separate tables, and then we would use the indirect function to refer to the correct table. The problem with that is that if I have a country like North America, South America, Australia and Oceania that have space characters, that indirect technique would not be as fun to use. We would have to use a couple of things, workarounds to make it work with spaces, because the table names could not have spaces in their name, but I did not want to have my category saying Australia underscore and underscore, right? So to work around that, it was a little bit tricky. So dynamic array functions that do make a lot of things much easier. Okay, so I'm going to close this file, and this was a demonstration file just that is already prepared, and I'm going to start with another file that is not complete yet, and we will build this together. Crispo, up to what time do we have available?
How much? Up to 5:30, so another 40 minutes.
20 minutes?
So.
40 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
We have time.
As you are going to show us the preparation, I had a question. What if you needed to select 2 countries? Can the subcategory be like Angola, Kenya, or something like that? If you wanted to select 2 subcategories.
Yeah, I did not prepare for that.
Okay.
So to select 2 countries, I don't see. Just thinking very quickly, I've seen that being made with VBA. There might be a solution with dynamic array functions, but that's a totally new scenario. What we will discuss at the end, if we have time, is what if I have country and then country, continent, country, and then cities. So then I have 3 levels.
Okay.
And the 3rd level depends on the choices that are made for the 1st and the 2nd level. If we have time, I will explain that.
Okay.
Okay. So for that first question, it could be one of possible ways to work around that could be select the 2 countries on separate rows, one at a time, and then have something maybe with dynamic arrays or with Power Query or something else that reads from that selection and organizes the items, putting the 2 countries or the 2 cities from the 2 countries from the same continent put together in one row. So there's multiple ways then that we could generate the output needed. But now it will all depend on the scenario. There's sometimes just a little different requirement makes the problem completely different. Okay, so in this scenario here, I already have some of the things prepared already, the ones that we already did for the other file. Let me just see here. We already have what we prepared for the other file. I have my first section with all my items, the second section which is the input, and the third section with the list of unique names for my categories, which are the continents. By the way, on a regular work scenario, most likely each one of these three things will be in separate sheets. You see that I put here sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Usually I build these three parts in separate sheets. One for my data, one for my input, and one for my helper formulas that are used for the data validation. But for this example, I have everything together in one sheet only so that we are not switching between sheets all the time. If you see here, I was showing the formula sort unique that we did before. It's referring to the TBL all combinations. That's the name that this table has. So if you click here and go to table design, we will see that that's the name here given to this table. And category is the name of the column. If we go here, we see that we already have a drop down built for the first column. And if we go and look into the data validation, so data validation, let's see how the data validation is built. I do not have a name. I don't have names here. So this is the other thing, the other way of doing. Instead of building a named range, you cannot use sort and unique in the data validation, but you can refer to the cell that contains the formula unique, which is this cell here, 04. Refer to the cell that contains the formula sort and unique and have the hashtag sign at the end to say, I want everything that is generated from the formula in cell 04. Okay. So you don't need to use the name if you don't want to. You can just create this helper cell with this formula on the side and then data validation, point to that cell, have the hashtag sign at the end. Okay, the first level drop-down list is already working in column G, in the first column of this table. Now, I want to build a drop-down list here for the second column, where for Australia and Oceania only shows me the countries for that continent and so on and so on. So I need to find a way to build sub-lists, one for each category. Let's calculate, let's first find what the list, how we can calculate the list or bring the list of items for the first item, Africa. The way I do it is with filter. So I say filter the column with countries. Let me bring this out of there. Where, so comma, where the category, in this case, the continent, is equal to the value in cell 04. Okay, and we can say if not found, that's an optional parameter, just give me an empty list, close parentheses, and enter. Okay, this is good. So if I have Africa here, it's filtering, it's giving the list of items that I will need for the sub-list of items for Africa. Now I want to build the same thing for Asia and the other countries, but because these items are on the way, I needed this cell for Asia. What I'm going to do is to send these values to show on a line instead of a column. For that, we can use, in this case, two different functions. We can use transpose, or we can use a new function, toRow. toRow means transform this range in a row. Both will produce the same result in this case. They are not the same thing, but in this case, they produce the same result. So you can either use transpose or toRow. So if I do this, now I have all my countries here organized on the side, and now I can repeat and build the sublists for each one of these other countries. Excuse me. One thing that we may also want is the sorting, and in some scenarios, especially if you have a table that is for more than 2 levels, you may have duplicates, so you may also want to use unique. So you filter, and then you do unique, and then you do sort. I'm going to do sort, unique. You may want to consider these options as well, depending on your scenario. Okay, so now our countries are organized alphabetically, and we know that we will not have any duplicates. Now we can repeat the same thing for the other countries. So unfortunately, ideally, I would like to come here to this formula, and in the 04, I would like to tell Excel, in 04, there's a spilled array coming out of that cell. Consider all the cells in that array. So I would put a hashtag sign there. But unfortunately, this does not work, as you can see, because we would have to do an array of arrays. Anyways, it's a topic for another time. But so we cannot do that. This is the piece that is not totally dynamic in this solution, because I need to repeat this cell as many times down as I want, as I need, and maybe a couple more cells to guarantee that if my list of categories grows, my list of subcategories will be available. But if my list of categories keeps growing and growing past the range, the row to where I copied my formula, I will have to come back and adjust my formula, because continue my formula down to allow more subcategories to be built. So this is the only portion that is not fully dynamic in this solution, just because I may need to give it a little bit of maintenance if my categories keep growing. Okay, so beautiful thing now, we have a list of categories that is dynamic. If I happen to have another continent here, that continent will show there. And if I have a city there, the cities will show there. I will have everything available here in my drop downs. The second one is not built yet. Okay. Let's go back. We don't want that. We don't want that. Okay. How can I now build the list of tell Excel that my data validation needs to find the correct sublist? So these sublists are in column P. If I have a way of first finding the category in column O, then I say, now look to column P. And then I can say, I don't want just what you find in column P. I want everything that spills out of that cell in column P. That's the reasoning to build my data validation. So I'm going to select all my cells here in the subcategory. And I'm going to say, in fact, before that, I'm going to build my formula here. No, sorry. Where do I need? Yeah, we can build it here. We may need to, let me just select which ones have less. So Australia has only one example, one item, and Asia has 3 items. So let me put Asia here. And I'm going to build my formula using this example, and then we will adapt for data validation. So what I'm going to do is XLOOKUP this item, and it's bringing the item like this because I'm building the formula just on the side of the table, and it uses this, but we will replace that way of referring to the cell. So find that item, comma, where? In column P, comma, what is the return array? Is everything that you find is in column, oh, sorry, this is not correct. Let me go back. Find Asia where in column O, not column P, comma, return array is in column P, okay, comma. What if it's not found? I'm going to just leave double quotes there. And I want an exact match. This is optional. The default is already exact match, but I like to put it there. And now it comes the magic piece. I'm going to press enter first. So if I do this, as you see, it only returns China. So I have Asia here. The sublist of items for Asia starts with China, but has India and Japan there. The only thing I need to do is to come here to my formula and have a hashtag sign at the end of the formula. Enter. And there you go. So now, because of that hashtag sign, my formula gives me all the items. And why is that? There are certain formulas, and XLOOKUP is one of them, that not only, I'm going to do undo first. So XLOOKUP not only returns the value in the cell when it finds Asia in this array in column O and then looks in column P for the corresponding value. XLOOKUP not only returns the value China, but it also returns kind of in the background the cell address of China. So it is also returning P5. It's China, which is the value, but it's also the cell address, P5. So if the result of XLOOKUP also means P5, and on P5, I have a dynamic array function that spills an array out of there, then it means that at the end of the XLOOKUP, that means P5, I can add an hashtag sign, and it will give me any values that are in an array built out of that P5 cell. I hope this makes sense. If there are any questions, let me know.
I have a question. Does the filter function return a cell reference?
No, not the filter function. You are asking.
Yes, I'm asking.
No, the filter function does not return the cell reference. XLOOKUP does offset index, correct. So there's a list and I can edit. I think I may have that on the resources. If I don't have it on the resources on my file, I will send it. If I don't forget, I'll send a link to when I send the files.
Okay.
That has information about which functions provide a cell reference besides providing the value.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, my original solution, I meant to say this and I almost forgot. My original solution was not this one. My original solution was find Asia with index in this column, okay, and then use the offset function to go to the side, and then use the hashtag sign with the offset function. Okay. And then Win Hopkins, the MVP Win Hopkins, he was surprised about that technique of using the hashtag sign at the end. He said, oh, XLOOKUP also might work. And he created this with like this with XLOOKUP. He has a video showing this technique, and now I use his way, which is much simpler. You can watch my video. It was way complicated, much more complicated than this, because I was using a lot of different named ranges, and I was using the offset and index. It's still good. If you have the time and the curiosity, it's still good to watch that video because it has a lot of different things that they're advanced techniques that people can use in other situations. But for this scenario, this way is much simpler. Okay. Good. So it answered your question?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Good. So the only thing now that we need to do is to put the formula inside the data validation, except that the data validation will not like this. So we need to replace the table structured reference and point to that cell by saying it is cell G4. So here I need to put cell G4. I can lock the G if I want. And in some cases, it may be important to lock the column, but I need to leave the number of the row. So number 4, I need to leave it without the $sign. It needs to be unlocked so that my data validation knows that for each row, it needs to use the row number for that row and not for all the time. So that's the formula that we want to use. Let's copy it. Control C. And let's select this column and come to data validation, and list. And we can put this formula inside the data validation dialog window. So in this case, we also do not need to create a name, which was what I was initially doing when I first came up with this dynamic way of putting the drop-down lists. Anyways, so okay, let's test. Asia, we have Asia countries. Europe here, I have European countries, so it's working perfectly. Mozambique, and so on and so on. So it's working perfectly dynamic. I don't need this. Can delete. Anything that we add here, if we add new items, Nigeria, New Zealand, Zambia, Tanzania, when I come here, they will be available in my drop-down list. So that's done. It's done. That's the way I built the two-level, the dynamic dependent drop-down lists. The only thing that we may want to do is to create the conditional formatting to allow the user to be notified and not create pairs that are not correct. So if I come here and I put Europe and Nigeria are not a valid pair. So there's different ways of doing that. One way is the following. So I want to create a conditional formatting rule, I need to have a formula that generates true or false. And when it generates true, the conditional formatting is applied. So when is it true that there's an error here? One way of thinking could be, if when I look for Nigeria in the Europe list, I cannot find it there. And one way of saying that is by using COUNTIF. When I do the COUNTIF of Nigeria in the list of Europe, it will give me 0. So I'm going to, let's see if I can. Okay, let's do the formula here. Equal count if, it could be COUNTIFs as well if you prefer. Let's before that, let's do the XLOOKUP again. XLOOKUP, yeah, XLOOKUP. Too bad that I deleted my formula. XLOOK. Oh, it was not. It is not the same. It's when I let me. Sorry, I have a blank here. Need to check my notes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what is? But I will do the COUNTIF. So COUNTIF. What's the range? The range is the list of subcategories. And how do I have that list? Using the same formula that we did before with the XLOOKUP. So my range is XLOOKUP, the value in the category, where in column O, comma, return column P, comma, if not found, it can be empty and it's an exact match. And I want the whole spilled array, so hashtag there. So that's my range. And what is the lookup? What is the criteria for my COUNTIF? My COUNTIF is the country. Okay, my COUNTIF value, my criteria value, sorry, it's the country. Okay, so if I do this, enter, I find one China in the list of Asia. Let's pull this down. I find one Romania in the list for Europe. I find one Mozambique for the list of Africa and so on. And I find a 0 on the list of Europe. So these are not trues and falses, although we in this case, they look like ones and zeros, but it's almost, we could do an equivalence. But just to make it more clear, what I'll do is count if the COUNTIF returns 0, that's when I want my conditional formatting to be applied. So is this 0? No, it's false because it was 1. This is false, this is false, this is false, this is true. So this formula will work for my conditional formatting, except that, again, I cannot use the table cell structured references. So I will have to put, it keeps being in the way here. I will have to put G4 in this case. I'll lock the column just in case. And the category is the value in cell H4. H4. Okay, so if I do that and drag it down, it will generate the same. This one, it's empty on the left, so it's not valid. So this is the formula that I can use. Copy the formula. When you do this on the side first, always build your formula for the first row, because the conditional formatting formulas need to be based off the first cell in the range that where we will apply the rule. So this is the formula for the first cell. I'm going to copy this formula and I'm going to select the range where I want to have conditional formatting applied to. And I'm going to come to Home, Conditional Formatting, New Rule, use a formula. This is my formula. And my format, now I want a fill in, let's say this purple here. Okay, and okay. And there you go. You see, it's telling me, hey, this value is not good for Europe. Okay, so I can come and change it. Now everything, we can see now that this became false. We could then delete this and it's working. So if I change my mind and I have already selected category and subcategory, and then I go back and I change my category, I will have a colored cell to tell me there's something wrong here, you need to fix it. Okay. Questions so far?
I think, yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
What's the difference between whatever you have done with condition formatting and turning on validation circles?
Turning on validation, what?
Validation circles. If you go to data validation, you can turn on, yes. So that in case you put the wrong thing, it you circle that as the wrong item.
The thing with that one, that is a good one for punctual checks if you want to check. So you can come here, data validation, and then in here you can ask circ invalid data, and it will put a circle around everything that has an error. The thing with that is, one, it will only show you up to, unless this was changed a few years ago, I know this was the rule, it will only show you up to 250 errors.
Okay.
So if you are in a situation where you may have more than 250 errors, you need to clean the circles, fix the problems in the circles that it shows, and then run the circles again. Maybe there are more errors.
Okay.
The other thing is that it is not automatic. You need to remember, oh, let me turn the circles.
Yeah.
At least I don't think it is automatic. If I close the file and
No,
open
it's
it
not
again,
automatic.
yeah, it will be, well, it first, yeah, we need to come and do it. So you need to remember to do it. So the advantage of the conditional formatting is that once the user makes a mistake, it will immediately be alerted by that different color in the cell. That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And of course, you can also do, I've done that. I've done this using VBA, which is you can create a macro. So let me clear the data validation circles. You can create a macro, VBA macro saying every time there's a change on this cell, on a cell on column G, or in the on a cell in the first column of the table, clear what's in the second column and force the user to fill it in again. This will ensure that there are no errors. The problem, VBA may not always be an option in all the scenarios. This option with the conditional formatting works well if you open your file in OneDrive, SharePoint. If you open your file on a mobile device, it will work well there as well, where VBA would not run in those platforms.
Yes, it's a smart workaround. I've always used validation circles, but I think I didn't know that limitation of 250. So I think this is smart. This is a smart workaround.
Yeah, there's the disadvantage of conditional formatting, though, is that it is very sensitive to be broken. If I had, let me put the name here with Control-Shift-V, I only pasted the value. If people in some scenarios this happens, they are lazy to use the drop down or to type. We don't have to use the drop down. I can just simply start to type. In fact, if I do this, the new functionality even shows me just the items that start or contain AF and then tab. I don't even have to type everything. And then in here, I could start to type the name of the country. 1 or 2 letters are enough. If I do the, 1 or 2, it starts to show me just the items that match. And with just a few keystrokes, I can have my input. But if people come and copy Control-C and come from somewhere else, and then come here and do Control-V, as you see, the pair is wrong. The pair is wrong, and there's no conditional formatting being applied. Why? Because when you do Control-V, you paste everything, and everything about this cell is the value and is the formatting. So if I come here to Home and then Conditional Formatting and Manage Rules, and I go into my range for this rule, it may not be easy to distinguish, but if you see, there's 2 ranges here. Romania is not being included in this range. So now the rule is applied, and you can read there. It's applied to H4 to H8, and then H9 is not included, H9 to H15. So when I paste, I destroy the conditional formatting because I pasted the formatting from that cell. So what people need to learn is that when you paste, as much as possible, Control-C, as much as possible, paste as values. You come here, right-click, and choose these, paste values. Or if you have an Excel version that already has the new shortcut, which is Control-Shift-V, Control-Shift-V also pastes values. And now, as you see, you pasted the value and data validation worked because it was not destroyed by the other format that came from the other cell. So now we can fix this. Yeah, so there's multiple ways of...
Is there a way you can prevent people from pasting? on a validated cell?
There's that I know only with VBA. I've seen those type of discussions online.
Okay.
But then it can become very annoying because you may not want to let them paste on that range, but maybe you want to let them paste in another range. So
okay.
I don't know. I would not. I know it's something that would be useful.
Yeah.
But
Or
even
maybe
if
you
the
can
sheet
use
is
a you
protected,
can use a hybrid of validation circles and condition formatting. Because now, if you turn on at the end of the day, if you turn on the validation circles, it will tell you that whatever was pasted is in the long. It's not being validated.
Yeah, the circles is always a good thing to use as a second check. Make sure that nothing is missed. Depending on the scenario, you may want to use that.
Okay.
Okay. Are we done with the time, or we still have some time? Let me know.
We can do one more.
Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to show you how would you do if it is 3 levels. Okay. I'm going to, I can save this. And I'm going to find another file here. And I'm going to show this quicker. So, in fact, I could have used the same file where I was. That's what I'm doing now, is the same thing. I'm opening a file for 2 levels that already have the structure, has the structure built in. So this is kind of the same thing that we just did. Now, I'm going to add the different data here. Let's imagine that now we have a situation where we need 3 levels. I'm not going to go with the same example for countries and continents and all that. I'm going to use just a different example. I'm going to remove my table, my data from here. I'm just removing this data from here. And I have a list of data on the side. Oh, first let's introduce here the second category. So let's imagine that my columns now were product, size, and color. Where did I put color? Oh, color went to the wrong. It's in this cell that I want. Color. Yeah, good. And now I'm going to put the same column names here. There. And I'm going to bring my data. So my list of combos. Imagine that I have a small list of products, clothing products, and here are my products. I have 3 different products with different sizes, and then within each size I have different colors. So for example, here you see you need to repeat cap size U as many times, repeat as many times as different colors you have, so that you have all the combinations of the 3 different values for your drop downs. As you can see here on the side, everything already updated for the first and second category, the product and the size. Now and everything is already here. I need to, let's say I select sweatpants, and then I say size M. Now I need a third drop down to bring the colors that are available for sweatpants M. So if I come here and do filter for sweatpants and then size M, I know that I need to get these 2 colors on my drop-down, on the third drop-down list. Okay, so the technique is exactly the same. The only thing is that the color, if the third one, so if the third element only depends on the second element, and there are cases like that, It's exactly the same thing. Just build the same structure, the same formulas, everything. The only difference is that the unique will refer to the second column of the data table instead of the first one, right? And then here, the XLOOKUP, you do the same adaptation, right? So you look in the second and then return the third. That's the only difference you need to know. One recommendation that I would like to make is to build on a separate sheet, each structure on a separate sheet, especially if you have long lists of data, so that all the lists and sublists can grow automatically without interfering with each other. In our example, I'll build everything here in the same table. Now, in our example, it is a little bit more complex because the third element depends on the first and the second. So I need to build my first list is a unique list of combos of first and second columns. So that's what I'm going to put in here. I'm going to say, get me the unique list of values that I get when I concatenate this column with this other column. You could also, let me put enter. So I get these items here, combination of product with size. If you want, you can add like a comma or a pipe character here. It makes your list of items easier to read, but it makes your formulas a little bit more difficult because now you always have to use these in your formulas. Because this is a structure that will usually be hidden anyways, we don't need to be that fancy. So we can just simply concatenate and that's it. So this is my list of unique items. Now I want to build my sublists, and it is the same structure, the same technique. Filter the third column where the concatenation of the first with the second one matches what I have here on this cell. If not found, empty cell, close parentheses, enter. So there we go. We have the list for caps. Now I need room to build the other ones. So we do the same thing that we did before to row. And if we want, we can have sort and unique just to make sure that our lists show very organized for the user when they see the drop-down lists. Yeah, so that's that. So there we go. Same thing. I like to paint these in gray just to remind it has a formula. Drag them down a little bit more than what you need, just in case these grows. That's it. That's the list for, so let's see. Cap unique size has 4 colors. Let's go see. Cap unique has 4 colors. Yeah. And then sweatpants small has black and white as colors. So sweatpants small, there's black here and there's white there. So it's good. And then it's just the same thing to apply. So come here, data validation. Let me just, yeah, and it's let me build the formula first here on the side so that you see the formula, and then we copy it into the data validation. So the formula is the same thing. XLOOKUP. What? The value that I'm going to select in the first drop down concatenated with the value that I select on the second drop down. Where do I need to, where's the lookup array? Where do I look for that? I look for that in column O concatenated with column P. Okay. And when you find it, return. Sorry, that's not wrong. That's not correct. Column O already contains the concatenation. Look, so we go back. X lookup the concatenation of item in first cell with item in second cell, and look for that in column O only, because the column O only already has the concatenated values, so no need to concatenate anymore. And return column P. And if not found, empty, and exact match, so 0. And I want this all the items, so hashtag at the end. So yeah, so there you go. It's white, black and white for is option. And then if we copy this down, I don't have selections, it will find anything we need. So now I just need to adapt this. This is G4 concatenated with H4. So let's do that. G4 concatenated with H4. I like to lock the columns, because if we add different columns then to the table, well, it depends on the circumstance. Locking may be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you progress your work. Okay, so Control C. Let's go to the data validation. And select list. And the source is the source generated by that formula. So now we have the items here. Sweatpants, I have M, L, and so I'm selecting the same thing. It doesn't make sense. Okay, white, and what else? If I have cap, t-shirt. If I have t-shirt and I have small, then I have these different colors. So it's working. And then you could build the conditional formatting. It's kind of do a similar reasoning and build the conditional formatting. So that's it. I hope it was useful. Let me know if there are any questions. I'm going to share my other screen to let people, I don't need this. Let's bring up Teams somewhere here. There we go. Stop sharing, and then I'll share the other screen. Are there any questions, Crispo?
I can't see any questions. So if you have a question, you can type on the chats, or you can lift your
or
hand
comments.
and unmute you.
Yes.
But for me, I thought I knew data validation because I've presented data validation before, but I've learned a couple of tricks.
Okay,
And
good.
Yeah. Very
Yeah, we are
interesting.
always
You
learning.
always learn something new. Yeah, true. So the only thing is what I had asked you about multiple selections. Like the last one that you have done. If you have selected a cup and small, and then you wanted to select orange and blue, how you do that, and you have orange and blue separated with maybe a comma or full colon in that cell.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, it all depends on the scenario, on what you need for your case. So what would you want? Would you want the whole list of colors, or for that?
No, the user, let's say maybe a user want to select a combination of two colors. You want yellow and white. So I go and select white. I can select white, or I can select yellow and white for small t-shirts or something like that.
Yes, let's see if I can pull up something at the moment.
Okay.
But so what I would do in a situation like that, and for example, this is an order. Let me share my screen, because I'm looking at my Excel now. So let's say this is an order form, and the person wants to also select another.
Yes, so select two colors instead of one.
Yeah. Okay. And these are the ones. So now it all depends on what you need. For example, if I want to have a list of unique items with product and size, and then have the two colors together in one row, is that what you were saying?
Yes.
It would not show like that immediately. It might be possible. I cannot think of it now, right? It's just off the bat. But if you want to have that as kind of your final list, you could go with Power Query, for example. Get data from table here. From table range. Power Query opens. And now from here, we can group our data. So first I can say, I don't want any nulls. Okay. And now I can say home group by. Oh, let me put a little bit. Now, after this, I'll put it bigger. Group by product. Okay. And advanced, so that I can have multiple groupings, multiple levels of grouping. Group by size. And then I have the column name will be colors. And I want all rows. Okay, I don't select anything in there. Okay. Now in here, I get a table. Then there's a trick that in here, my column was color. Okay. So in here, if I remove, let me put this a little bit bigger. If I remove everything that was generated out of there up to here, and I just put the name of the column that I had on my previous step, and do OK, I get an error. Why is that? I know I've done this a couple of times. Let me just go back. Sorry, go back. View, I closed my query settings here. So it was color. Okay, grouped by each color. What does it say? Expected. It's expecting a comma somewhere. Oh, at the end. It has an extra square bracket. Okay, there we go. So replace everything after the underscore up to before the two curly brackets with the name of the column that was in here in the previous step that you want to have in a list. Then in here, you can expand, not to new rows, because then you would go back to where you were. Extract with, let's say, a comma as a separator. Or separator, or you can have comma space. And OK. There you go.
You see.
Home, and so now home, close and load too. Going to put it in here. Yeah. So this is quite so big. Let's put this a little bit smaller. Let's see. Let's test this. Maybe go back to a little bit bigger. No, it's good. Size is good, right? So now let's test. If I have sweatpants and then S again, and then instead of white, I have black. So my sweatpants S will have to show white there.
White and
So when I
black.
go right click, yes, white and black, sure. Yes, so the refresh there.
Okay.
So that would be a way, but so it's not a matter of letting the user to select everything in one cell. I don't know how this would be possible without VBA.
Okay.
Deborah Dalglish, she's an MVP here from my city in Canada, in Mississauga, just outside Toronto. She has a website with a lot of different tutorials, and she has something about that, of creating data validation with multiple items, and she uses VBA. This video and this technique is there since a long time ago, so that's VBA based.
Maybe you can send that website when you are sending the resources that you have used in the
Deborah Dalglish, for sure.
Yeah. 2 comments from Jose. Says nice, very useful. And then from Delphis BGB, thank you, madam, for the session. I love the class and I understand what you are doing. I hope when we practice, everything will be okay. Definitely, you need to practice.
Yeah, and you can just watch the video. I will send the files to Crispo. I don't know how you make the files available to people.
No, I usually share them on the YouTube, on the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, so somebody can download, and then as they watch the video, they can be able to practice.
Yeah, then they can follow along with the files. Yeah, I'm sure. I think I was quite detailed, so hopefully
you are.
Hopefully it will not. And the technique, it's quite simple. It may be a little bit tricky the first time you see it, but once you get the hang of it. And the beautiful thing is, if you build it once, like you've seen in my last example, I just changed the name of the columns and changed the name of the products, and I changed the data, and everything adapted immediately. So you can have a file with this structure already prepared, and then use it and start from there, and maybe you can build anything on top of it, and save you some work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else with a question? I can't see anyone with a question, so I will ask you the last question that we ask all the presenters. One advice that you like to give somebody who is admiring you and would like to be at the level that you are at?
So how to get better at Excel, basically?
Yes, and hopefully become an MVP like you.
Okay, the MVP portion, it's about not only the expertise, but also giving your knowledge for free to the community. So if you are how do I say, if you are contributing to the community to Excel, with Excel or any other Microsoft technology, you can reach out to an MVP and ask them to nominate you. You need to show that you have work done, and it does not have to be a YouTube channel. There are MVPs, for example, who are MVPs just because they help a lot of people in forums answering questions. You could maybe be writing a book, or you could have a blog, or you could build a tool and share the tool with people. There's multiple ways of becoming an MVP, although the most the ones that people recognize more, they are more familiar with them, are the ones who have a public appearance with YouTube channels. It does not have to be like that. You can, like I said, participate, help people on Excel forums with their questions. And that leads me to my second advice to your first question. For me, that's one of the best ways to learn Excel. Well, the best way to learn Excel is to solve problems, real problems with Excel, not the ones that come in the courses or in the video tutorials that are examples. Those are good too for you to, those are important for you to understand that lesson and to understand the concept, but you will only become an expert on something when you are able to adapt what you learned to new situations. And that comes with the opportunity of solving other problems. But sometimes people say, I don't have problems. I mean, where can I find Excel problems? I have my work. Maybe my work does not have a lot of Excel or different things in Excel. Maybe it's always kind of the same thing. So where can I find new problems to solve with Excel? Go into an Excel forum, mrexcel, for example, .com. Is one of my favorites, .com/board, if I'm not mistaken. The other one is Microsoft Tech Community, and there are multiple other Excel forums where you can create a login and just be there, look for other people's questions and try to solve them on your own and present a question. That's the best way for you to learn Excel. And by doing that, if you are interested in becoming an MVP, then that might kill you two rabbits with one stick. That's a Portuguese saying. What's the English one? To catch two birds? I don't know, something like that. Yeah. So you can work towards the two goals with one technique, which is answer questions in a forum. You will be producing content, helping people, contributing to the community that could be used for your application to become an MVP, and you are becoming better at Excel. So that's my my advice.
Okay. I think we are overwhelmed, and the pressure is all ours to have you. Thank you for accepting the invitation and for doing a detailed presentation, which definitely I will watch again. I thought I knew a lot, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we always learn something.
Yeah,
and people can feel free to reach out to me. There's my contact information there on the screen. I also have a newsletter. I forgot to put my Excel course there, but if you go to my website, solvingexcel.ca, and look for training, there's the course there available that has some free modules available. You can also use that as a free content and take advantage of it. It introduces Power Query, so feel free to do so.